Welcome to Ghostly.
Is the Aradale Asylum haunted?
Ghostly is a podcast that comes out every other week. In each episode, we take a ghost story or paranormal event and look into its complete history. Rebecca then gives us evidence proving that the story is real, and my job is to debate those pieces of evidence and get you, the listener, prepared to vote on if it's real or not. If you haven't yet, here's that annoying reminder, please hit that subscribe button.
And I'm your host, Rebecca, and he's Pat. He's the one that's going to try to prove me wrong, but he won't.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. All right. So, disclaimer: we are not native Australians.
Nope, not at all. While I can sometimes sort of pretend to pull off a British accent, there is nothing I can do.
But I would think Aradale's probably pronounced Aradale.
Sure. And I know we have listeners in Australia. Please let us know. How did Pat do? I will not be trying.
Please let us know if you've been to Aradale Asylum.
Sounds like Western. I don't know.
Right. You gonna go to the Aradale? All right. Aradale Asylum may well be one of the most haunted places that we've ever talked about on Ghostly.
Yeah, definitely.
Although I'll probably not agree with that statement at the end of the debate, but who knows? That's why we do this.
It is why maybe listeners, this will be the one. I mean, of all the things that could be the one, this could be the one.
Well, we are talking about an asylum here, and it is always kind of bittersweet when we do episodes about asylums.
True.
Because on the one hand, we get some of the creepiest stories, but on the other hand, we're forced to confront the idea that in many ways, we were kind of inhumane to the mentally ill in the early days of psychiatric medicine.
Yeah, I'd say more than kinda.
Yeah. I mean, we were.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah. Although I didn't hear of any lobotomies being done here, but there probably was some.
There were. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. The patients brought to Aradale were deemed either too sick or too dangerous to remain in society. Over the years, they were subjected to grueling treatments, including restraint and electroshock therapy.
Yes, I definitely heard about that.
So the history is going to be kind of short for this one, but the ghost stories are plentiful.
Yes.
So let's just do some business first and then hurry up and jump right into the spooky place.
All right.
So we do have shout outs. There are two ways to get a shout out on Ghostly. The first way is to give us a review on Apple Podcast. We always prefer those 5-star reviews, but we will read any and all reviews that we receive. And the second way is to become a member on Patreon. Just go to ghostlypodcast.com and click on Patreon in the menu bar. We have a lot of different tiers that you can choose from, and they're all very affordable.
Absolutely. And a lot of different options for whatever you're looking for. And that includes getting Ghostly X, our awesome extra ghostly Ghostly X, extra ghostly. Yes, that's what it means. That you can get on the weeks that you don't get a regular ghostly.
Although I will say that the episodes are different than they are on regular Ghostly, but I've really been enjoying them.
They're great because, we don't have time on these episodes to really get into kind of some of the, philosophical ideas behind like what are ghosts and what are hauntings and I don't know, are there cryptids and, we don't get to swear, but we do get to swear on Ghostly X.
Yeah. I mean, it is encouraged sometimes.
No, that's not really the main reason to listen. But no, you get into some up close and personal interviews with the people that we have on Ghostly, and it's super fun.
And in the future, maybe even people that we've never had on Ghostly.
That's the goal.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a new patron on Patreon, and that is Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Welcome, Mark.
We're so excited to have you. And we did get a review as well.
Yes, we did.
So I am not going to try to pronounce this name. Okay, that's all I'm going to say. But
BDTITUHE HEUF.
There you go. That.
Yes.
5-star review. Thank you so much. Called My Overdue Review. I've been listening to the show for close to a year, and I really like Pat and Rebecca as a team. You get a discussion on a haunted subject and the history. Then they rate it on how haunted they think it is. A good show. Keep them coming.
Aw.
Thank you so much. And if you'd like to leave us a review, we would love it.
Yeah. This is episode 96, and we're 4 away from our 100th episode. And we do plan to keep them coming.
We do. We absolutely do. We are so excited for our 100th episode too. It's going to be great.
It's going to be epic.
I've got a listener mail. This one is from Tara or Tara. I have thought about sharing my stories for a long time, but was always afraid people would think I was crazy. I was in high school the first time I experienced something ghostly. Ding, ding, ding. I was sitting in homeroom at the start of the school day. Our chair/desks were lined up in rows. There were not very many of us in the classroom as it was early. I was feeling down, don't really remember why, but probably some boy trouble. Always blame it on the boys. I had my eyes closed, and the person behind me started to give me a wonderful shoulder massage.
That's a little creepy. I mean, guys, that's probably not...
I would not have been okay with that in school.
I mean, if it's your significant other, then fine. But if it's not... maybe ask if they want it first. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay,
anyways. Okay. It felt so good. I just let it happen for a few minutes before turning around to say thank you. When I turned, I saw that nobody was sitting behind me. I looked around the room trying to figure out if anyone was close enough to have been messing with me, but there was no one. As I said, that was the first experience. There were more to follow that I may share with you another time.
Oh, well, that was really good. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Tara. And please definitely send us more stories. If there anything as creepy as that one just was, I am excited to hear them.
Yeah, and if you want to be like Tara, you can send us your ghost stories by emailing us at info@ghostlypodcast.com or use the contact us form on ghostlypodcast.com. Or one of our favorite ways to get ghost stories is in the actual mail. And I'm going to give you the P.O. box, but you're not going to remember it. So just scroll to the bottom of ghostlypodcast.com, and it's in the footer. It's P.O. Box number 264, Geneva, Illinois, 60134.
You got it.
So, so let's skip the polls and get right to the ghost story then.
Nope,
get right to the good stuff.
Nope. Even if I'm going to lose again, we need to do the polls.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I mean, again, I don't know why you're all jeezing it. Like, you have been winning all the most haunted, all the Lee family.
I have a bad feeling about this one. And it's not a supernaturally bad feeling. It's because I remember what we talked about.
All right. So in our last episode, we talked about the Eastern State Penitentiary. And this time, sorry, I'm a little giddy because it's yes, 86.4.
Wow.
No, 13.6. I don't know if I have ever won so big before.
Wow. Yeah,
I mean, maybe I have, but
I don't think so. That is like huge.
It's really big.
Yeah. And the overall rating, so you can vote on how haunted you think something is, 1 being not haunted at all, 10 being the most haunted place ever, 7.23.
That is unheard of.
That is a record breaker.
I actually didn't think that was possible. We've had this discussion
I did not
before.
either. Yeah. But
Wow.
I guess if there's enough people that say something, then yeah.
I think there was a lot of evidence on that one. So thank you all for that. And in case you didn't know, if you subscribe to Patreon and give us, a little bit of money, and get Ghostly X, we read the listener vote comments.
Yes, and I have one to respond to on this one, too. That was directly asked if I had done something, and I have done it, and I am going to respond to this.
Yes, so get on Patreon, check out that Ghostly X, and get a little bit more with those votes. All right, so I do have a ghost story.
Ooh.
Mm.
It's time for a spooky tale from Rebecca.
Last night, we went on the spookiest ghost tour I have ever been on. My friends and I decided we were going to check out the Aradale Asylum. We've been traveling in Melbourne, and we always like to include a ghost tour anytime we travel, and this place sounded the creepiest. And, it's not too far away. It lived up to its expectations. We started by touring the women's ward. Such a sad area. I was just standing there listening to the stories of women with postpartum depression being brought to an asylum and all these other sad cases when I heard a voice. It was a woman's voice, soft and kind. She just said, "It'll be all right." At first, I couldn't quite catch it or even believe what I was hearing, but then she said it again. "It'll be all right." I am shivering again just thinking about it. Then we were standing in the area where they did electroshock therapy, and I swear I felt tingling on one side of my head. Now, I thought at first it must be the power of suggestion, but then two of my friends and two others in the tour group also said they felt a similar sensation. The scariest part of the tour was no doubt the ward where they kept the criminally insane. This is where many dark, depraved souls were kept, no doubt right alongside many people wrongly incarcerated. We were standing in a cell, using some paranormal equipment, and really trying to just be quiet and see what we could catch, when I felt an icy hand on my shoulder. I jumped out of my skin. Then I felt it shoving me, pushing me out of the cell. I have never felt so unwanted in a space before. Yet, I almost felt like I was being compelled to go back in. But I let it go. I don't let spirits control my decisions, even if I tend to find them everywhere I go.
Wow. Well, I don't let spirits control my decisions either.
Good.
Yeah. So, what is this based on?
Airedale has a lot of tours. There are daytime history tours and a lot of nighttime ghost tours, a lot of different kinds. And that is where a lot of people report all of the paranormal activity that's going on there. And the first with the woman that is a nurse that we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And the tingling on the side of the head is also something we're going to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
And the shoving and all of the unwanted feeling in the criminally insane ward is also something we're going to talk about.
Nice. All right. Well, let's take a break and then we will return with the history.
Hello, ghostly listeners. Rebecca here. It's been a while since I've read you a creepy bedtime story, but it's time to bring this spine-tingling good time back. Join me on Patreon for exclusive new readings of classic ghost stories. Every month, I'll be reading frightening tales from my favorite authors. A perfect way to go to sleep with the sweetest, most terrifying dreams. Join Ghostly's new Patreon by visiting ghostlypodcast.com and clicking on Patreon on the menu bar so you don't miss any of my creepy bedtime stories. Talk to you soon.
All right. So, as I said, this history might be a little bit shorter than the typical history. There's just not that much. I mean, the building was built, it was used for many, many years, and then it was no longer in use.
Well, I think part of this is, I mean, there's a lot of history, but I mean, the history would get very into minutia.
Yeah.
Into just a lot of like the day-to-day happenings at the asylum and things like that. And I guess there are many other podcasts and TV shows and books out there on this place where you can get all that detail.
Sure.
If you want.
Sure. So I'm going to start before it was built.
Ooh.
Okay. So the discovery of gold in the mid-19th century in Victoria, which is part of Australia,
yes,
brought with it many things. Wealth to the colony and its residents. An abundance of different cultures from across the Western and the Eastern world. And most notably, a large population growth.
I mean, there's gold in them thar hills.
Yeah, right. And with such a population growth, there's many issues that arise, right?
Yeah.
So you don't think about it. You just think, oh, okay, there's,
People came in and got gold.
Exactly. So one of them is, where are the migrants to live?
Yeah.
It was a small town, so where are they going to go?
Mm-hmm.
Will there be a clash of cultures?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes, people are very accepting of other cultures, but oftentimes they're not. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. What will become of them once the gold became scarce?
Yeah. Scarce.
So one question that is often overlooked is, what was to be done in order to care for the rise in the mentally ill Victorians that would follow such migration? According to the rise in migration, the births within the colony meant that the rise in those deemed lunatics would follow such a trend. Now, I hate that term, lunatics or stuff like that. I mean, mentally ill, nowadays we're a lot more accepting of it. And we realize that it is an illness. It's not something anyone's fault, but lunatic makes it sound like, I don't know.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's like, okay, sure. So more people are coming. So therefore, there's going to be more people with mental illness, more people being born, all of that makes sense. But yeah, I think definitely, I'm not going to say that we're perfect or that we have it right today.
No,
but
I'm looking forward to the next 100 years.
Right, where it will be even better. But I think you're right. And especially, that word lunatic, it's a hard word, but that is what people used at that time. And I think it's important because it really helps us to understand what it was like.
Yeah. So this growth in mentally ill patients meant that the local asylums were overcrowded and not getting the care that they needed. So parliamentary inquiries throughout the 1850s recommended that larger asylums were to be constructed throughout Victoria to deal with the growing problem. Aradale Asylum, or Aradale Mental Hospital, was an Australian psychiatric hospital, and it was located in Ararat.
I like that. Ararat. Yeah.
Ararat. I don't know.
Yeah, there's an A in there.
G'day, mate. Ararat. So it's a rural city that is located in the southwest state of Victoria. The asylum was designed by G.W. Vivian and John James Clark. Now, Clark would later become a very famous architect in Australia, as he worked 30 years in the public service and 33 in private.
Okay, so he designed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, and he's actually from the UK.
Oh, okay.
But very interesting person there. Vivian had originally made the design that was used for Aradale for a couple of other mental hospitals in Australia, Kew and Beechworth. So they actually started building Kew and Beechworth at around the same time as Aradale. Although Aradale was finished first, Construction began in 1864, and the guardhouse are listed as being built in 1866, though the list of patients extends as far back as the year before, which was 1865.
Wow. So it's like, I mean, that's crazy to think. It's like, we need more mental hospitals, build them. And then they, there's like a race to construction. And we're first.
Absolutely. The building of Aradale was contracted to O'Grady, Glynn, and O'Callaghan, and not patients or inmates as people mistakenly think. The asylum was built as a town within a town with its own market gardens, orchard, vineyards, piggery, and other stock kept on the grounds. I love piggery.
Okay, so no, that's interesting because I actually had read in some of my research there were people that claim that the patients were the ones that actually built the buildings, and so you're saying that's wrong.
That's
they
totally
were not
not
involved
true.
in that. Okay,
Yeah, there was actually a construction company that was hired,
Gotcha.
and they did all of the work. Now, maybe later in years, maybe the inmates might have
helped
done
with
something.
upkeep or
And
something.
I say inmates, and I mean that word actually.
Oh,
We'll talk about that in a little bit.
okay.
So at its height, it had over 500 staff.
Wow.
And as it stands today, the complex is made up of 63 different buildings, ranging in age from the original wings built in the 1860s to the modern forensic unit, which was built in 1991, only 2 years before the facility was closed.
Wow. So yeah, that's not that long ago. I mean, it is, I know, but it's also not that long.
Absolutely. Aradale is an example of E-plan barracks, which was based on a model that was used in the 1850s asylum in Colony Hatch, England.
Okay.
The buildings are constructed from oversized bricks, which were then rendered with cement, and 2-storied ward wings extend to each side, one for each sex. The ward wings were surrounded by courtyards lined with iron columned verandas.
Verandas makes it sound very fancy, but then they had iron.
Yeah, well, actually, this is something really, really interesting because there's another distinct feature of Aradale.
Okay.
It used this technique called ha-ha walls, which I love that term, ha-ha walls.
I don't know. It's one of those things I feel like you're about to tell us that it was bad, but it sounds fun.
No.
Ha-ha
This was not bad.
Okay.
This is actually really good. So the ha-ha walls were around the patient courtyards. So what they do to make these is around the building, they dig a big trench, and then they put the wall in the trench.
Okay.
So you have to go downhill, and then you're confronted with the wall.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when you look at the building, it looks like the patients have free roam then. But as you get closer, you have to go down a hill to see the wall surrounding it, and it adds to the feeling that the patients are not imprisoned at all.
Okay. So this is my thought of why it's called the ha-ha wall is you think you're free. You think you can get out and you keep walking, but then you go down the hill and ha-ha, you can't get out.
Maybe it's, you're driving by and you're like, wow, they have no walls surrounding the courtyards. Why are the people all staying in there? And then you get closer and it's like, that's a wall.
There's a wall. No, I you know what? I did read something. I didn't know all of this detail, of course, but I did read a thing that said that the way they did the walls made people on the outside think that they weren't like imprisoned as much as the people really were. And okay, so that makes sense then.
So now I have to bring this up because just by reading about it, I get a feeling it's going to come up in the debate. So there was a special place in the mental hospital. It was J Ward. Now, I read something else where it said that the whole hospital was made for prisoners or the criminally insane.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't. It was built for everyone.
Right.
And then they incorporated J Ward. J Ward was supposed to be temporary, though. but it was set up to have the criminally insane as patients. So they went around to all the prisons in Australia and pulled out the mentally ill and brought them to Aradale. J ward was separate from the rest of the hospital, though.
Okay.
So they didn't have interactions with the other patients.
Gotcha. Okay.
So they were building a new mental hospital to host these criminally insane. It was to be built at Sunbury, but right before the building was finished, they designated it to be a women's mental hospital. So the prisoners all stayed in J ward.
Okay.
The hospital did close in 1993, following a decision from the Victorian government to deinstitutionalize patients in mental hospital systems. Aradale Asylum was closed in 1998. So it was open for a little bit, but it just, maybe it was the J ward that was still open.
I'm sure it took time to coordinate everything.
And in 2001, it became a campus, the Melbourne Polytechnic's Ararat Training Center. Say that 10 times fast.
I'm not going to do that. So it's interesting. I think this is something that I've definitely heard about here in the States, and obviously as well, I'm sure around the world, that, we used to really not have anything for people that were more severely mentally ill. Now, I am 100% positive that there were people in this asylum that even at the time didn't need to be there. I know for women, again, postpartum depression, different things. Again, these are people that did not need to be institutionalized. But let's just go with people who are severely mentally ill, schizophrenia, really depressed, all of the things where they're really, really bad. And they back then, no amount of therapy is going to help this person, right? Even if they knew of such a thing. And so this was what they did. They built these buildings, put people there. Again, doesn't mean that the treatment was always great. Doesn't mean it was always bad. But what changed was medication, was pharmaceuticals.
Absolutely. But you have to look at, treating psychiatric or mentally ill patients in an inpatient setting is a lot different than is an outpatient. Outpatients, they, usually go weekly or there is daily, but they get the, help that they need. And there's no reason why they can't stop unless it's like court ordered or something like that. But whereas inpatients, once they have you in there, it's hard for them to know when to release you.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's also hard not to become worse. Yeah. Because you're surrounded by a lot of people that are feeding this as well.
Absolutely. I know too, there was, and I believe still is, but there was a big growth in the homeless population after they closed asylums like this. There really wasn't, I'm sure, the support needed for
it's
people.
Not homeless people though, Rebecca. Unhoused people, which I kind of refuse to say that. I'm sorry.
But back then, and especially this particular group, is what you really think of. It's sad. It's a complicated thing, and we're not going to solve anything today. But yeah, I think from what I read about the asylum, this wasn't necessarily known as like the worst of the worst. Did they do lobotomies? Did they do electric shock therapy? Yes, but those were considered state-of-the-art treatments. And they actually still do some versions of electric shock therapy today.
And they do lobotomies in rare cases.
Exactly. So I don't think that again, maybe some of the things that they did there, I'm sure by today's standards, we would consider them like, oh my God, I can't believe they did that to people.
Yeah.
But I think back then it wasn't like, there were places that did things that even back then were bad.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I have not necessarily read that about this place. But regardless, any place this big, there's going to be bad stories, and again, people that were there that just didn't need to be there, people that were probably indigenous or, just people that were considered other that got put there, which makes for a very sad place sometimes.
Absolutely. Well, you wanted to talk about the noteworthy inmates as well.
So, there were many, but there were just a couple that I read about that I thought were worth mentioning. One was Bill Wallace. Now, he was never tried. He was never convicted, but people strongly suspected that he shot a friend over an argument about a cigarette and was declared insane by 2 separate doctors in 1925. He was sent to Aradale for 64 years to be held, quote, held at the governor's pleasure.
What?
And died there at 107 in 1989. I read this in several places.
Wow.
Like he got the life sentence.
Well, at least they're feeding people well then if you live to 107. Jeez.
I don't know. Now, the other one, I am not going to go into all of the gory details, but this is Gary Webb. He bad crimes, bad guy, but he was set to be released. But he had threatened so many people on the outside that basically the government passed a special law just relating to him to keep him in prison or keep at Aradale in the J ward. And while he was there, it was said that he mutilated himself over 70 times.
Wow.
He cut things off and himself and it's
geez.
just bad.
Oh,
go read about it if you want the gross stuff.
If you want the gross stuff.
If you want the gross stuff, go read it.
All right. Well, with that, I think we're done with the history, so we should go ahead and just take a break.
Let's do it. Pat, what do creepy stories, funny ghost memes, and inside ghostly information have in common?
My life.
Well, yes, but no, it's also Ghostly Society on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. That too, of course. But aren't all ghostly listeners in Ghostly Society?
Not yet.
What? That means that they're missing out on all my jokes.
Yeah, they are. And missing out on chatting and sharing with other listeners and us, of course.
We love talking to our listeners. If you haven't yet, you should consider joining our private group on Facebook called Ghostly Society.
Let's hope now they will.
Unless they're a woman in white.
Uh-oh.
All right. I bet you're going to tell me that this place is like haunted or something.
Yeah.
Can't you ever just be like, I couldn't find anything? And so the episode's over right now. No debate needed.
Well, then we wouldn't do the episode.
Yeah.
No, there are countless stories for this place. There are so many stories, comments, videos, pictures, anything you can think of, it's out there. But we're going to focus on just some of the most commonly told stories about who haunts this former asylum and what they do to haunt it.
Okay.
I will add links in the show notes for a fun Facebook page that's for the haunted tours that have some kind of people telling their stories of things that happened to them. And of course, just all the other sources that I found that were just super fun. There's one thing that articles will say is that it is estimated that during its time, over 13,000 inmates died at the asylum. Now, some people will say were killed at the asylum. I don't think that's fair. I'm assuming it's, people that went through it. I don't know where they're getting that number exactly, but it wouldn't surprise me that there'd be a large number of people because it was a big place, a lot of people.
Well, there
a
was
lot of very
500
ill
staff people.
Exactly.
I mean,
so
that's crazy.
2,000, I think, inmates at any given time.
Wow.
So I don't know, but that was just a fun fact I found.
Oh, fun.
All right. Here we go. The first ghost mentioned in most articles is Nurse Kerry. Nurse Kerry is said to haunt the woman's ward. She was an employee. Supposedly, she watches over tour groups, as she used to do, watching over the women inmates when she worked there. Visitors report hearing the disembodied sound of clicking high heels throughout the empty ward, and even a soft woman's voice.
I mean, I did not hear anything like that. I mean, I wasn't there, but I didn't I looked at some of the stuff and I didn't hear any videos where they had that or anything.
No, I did not find any videos with the clicking high heels or woman's voice.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking that this place is enormous.
Yes, it is.
I mean, to house that many people, I mean, it has to be pretty big.
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm thinking that it's possible to hear echoes throughout the halls.
I suppose, but if you're standing there with a tour group and then you hear, or you're just standing there and you hear, click, 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 I mean, that's a pretty distinctive sound to hear.
Well, I mean, this is a functioning building. They do offer degrees and stuff there.
Well, not, I think, in this part of it.
In the whole entire place.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's like a college almost.
Well, I don't think they use up all the buildings, though. I think because if you see the pictures, like there's definitely areas that are still the old asylum area.
So the main building, it had 2 wings, and each one of those wings had 2 stories, and each wing was responsible for either male or female.
Mm-hmm.
So if they were on the female end of this, and it's possible to hear noises from the male end, I would imagine, especially since there's not many people in it at most time. So, and I would imagine it's, there's not as much furniture probably as there was. Well, maybe there is. I mean, but they've probably opened up a lot of the, the walls and stuff like that in order to have classes in there.
Right. But where this is not wherever classes are. Like, this is where, like, I think it sounded like this is where there's like it's the woman's ward, like not at, like where there was like medical treatment and stuff like that. Like, it was not just like where they lived, it was like a special place. And again, specifically, they mentioned like women, like postpartum depression women, which they didn't call it that back then. And just like other like women are hysterical, so they must be crazy, kind of thing. And that this is like a special place where they were getting treatment.
Sure.
So I don't know the names of all the rooms and specific places, but this definitely doesn't sound like it was just like where they lived, like where there's like, this barracks over here and this barracks over here. Mm-hmm. This is like a separate area because this is like a staff person who was a nurse.
Yeah. I'm going to say without further information, it's impossible for me to really give any reason to this.
But echoing,
I would say, is probably one of it's highly suspected when people hear these kind of things, especially the clicking of heels and stuff like that.
Right.
That is, you can hear heels pretty far away.
If it's quiet, I suppose that's
absolutely
true.
You can. Yeah.
So what's your rating for this one?
I'm going to go 1 because I don't have enough information to really make any informed decision on this.
Gotcha. I'm going to give this one a 6. I mean, again, it's, there's so much haunting there. But I did not necessarily read a specific story regarding the heels and the woman's voice. But again, it's just such a popular story. We're putting it in there. All right, here we go. Next one, the J ward, which, okay, I'm sorry. As an aside, when I was doing the research for this, I was so confused for like a half hour because for some reason my brain thought J ward was the name of a person.
Yeah, I did too.
Okay, thank goodness. Because I was like, oh, so this is like a person and they like have a website and they talk about the asylum. Anyways, there was a lot of, I'm going to walk away because I'm confused by everything. And then when I come back, I'm going to read some other stuff. And then I figured it out.
Yeah.
All right. So J ward, as we learned, is where the criminally insane were held. Okay. So the story is there were 3 prisoners who were hanged and buried at Aradale. However, they were apparently not given proper burials and do not have headstones. Only 3 small scratches in the prison wall to mark that they were buried on the grounds. It's even rumored that they were buried vertically, like many murderers back then. I had not heard this story. I didn't research vertical burial, but anyways, so supposedly in this area, the whole J ward area, people report feeling shoved and bitten by unseen ghosts. There are screams and clock ticking where there are no clocks.
Okay.
So there's a lot of things I know.
Yes. So to start off with the 3 prisoners who were hanged, I saw no reference to that in any history. I don't know the names of these prisoners. I have no idea. This whole one sounds like one of those spooky stories that you tell by a campfire, about like the guy that has the hook arm that comes after people and stuff. It doesn't, like, seriously, if I can't find any reference of the 3 prisoners that were hanged, then it makes me question all the rest of it in that they were just trying to explain this more.
I don't know. I mean, there must be 3 scratches somewhere on a wall, I was thinking.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure there was. Yeah.
No, but I mean, I'm guessing this is a story told to people. So I don't know where the story came from. But I will say the reports of feeling shoved and bitten, those I found a lot of people with those stories, especially the shoved part. And then the bitten, I actually read about an investigator, it was an investigator. They were there and they decided to try or like do a test where they put on the straitjackets. And the one guy like freaked out after getting the straitjacket put on, and he was like, like get it off kind of thing. And when they took it off, they the people like saw a bite mark on him. And they were like, what?
And he didn't have that prior to coming in.
He did not have it. And in fact, they went to another room where there was like more light to look at it, and it was gone.
Okay. Well,
but anyways, so those are the shoved and bitten. And again, they're claiming it's these guys, or just could be others, I suppose. But
so I've been on a couple of, paranormal investigations and these tours and stuff like that. And one thing I can say is that they usually have the place nice and dark.
Yes.
And, when you're walking up and down stairs and stuff like that, I often feel that way when I'm in these kind of things. And
feel like what?
Feel like, I'm being pushed and like, but I just think it's my nerves. I think
or it's a ghost.
No, it's not a ghost, Rebecca. So I'm going to have to go 0 on this one.
Whoa.
This one just sounds like so fantastic, hell. It's like, seriously, there's no proof of 3 prisoners hanged there. okay, there might be 3 scratches on a wall. That could mean anything. That could be 3 days that the person spent in this cell.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Could be true, though. Don't know.
It could be that the person, grew their nails out and scratched the wall when they were being pulled away by one of the orderlies.
Ugh.
I don't know. There could be a lot of explanations for 3 scratches on the wall. This is kind of getting ridiculous now.
Well, I'm going to give this one an 8.
An 8?
Yes, because
Whoa.
of the shoving and the biting.
Okay.
The screaming and the clock ticks, those I feel like we can explain those away. But the others, nope, too many people, too much going on with that. All right, next one. Now, this one, okay, I picked this one. So there's a lot of mentions of some quote unquote room where people like feel like a bad presence, something evil. But I found one place where it mentioned maybe a specific room, the name of the room that this could be. So the governor's bathroom is said to be very haunted by a demonic force.
Oh, geez, Rebecca, what's your infatuation with these demons?
I didn't write this.
And is this just a poopy one? Is this what we're talking about?
This is not a poopy one. Well, no, not a poopy one.
All right.
Fart. Staff and visitors often refuse to go in because they just sense evil. So again, there could be other rooms, but this is the only one I found named. So supposedly at least one prisoner was murdered and dismembered in the bath.
In the bath of the government's
governor's bathroom.
Of the governor's bathroom.
Yeah, that's the story. But again, demonic presence or demonic force or just evilness, people don't like to go in.
Well, I don't even know what to say about this one. This one, it's like, okay, so really all that it is that staff and visitors often refuse to enter because they sense evil.
Right. Yes.
Okay. I mean, we all have these things. Like, oftentimes when I'm invited to go to something, I get really excited about it. But then as the day comes closer, I'm like, oh man, I don't want to go to this. And I have no rhyme or reason for it. I just don't want to go. And then I find if I do go, I end up having the best time ever.
Uh-huh.
And whenever I feel that way, I feel like I need to push myself. And I think they need to push themselves to see what this evil is. So there is nothing, okay, so that they have this sense of evil. And that is the only thing that this demonic force does is make them sense evil.
Well, we don't know what would happen if they went in. They refused to go in.
Somebody's got to have gone in there at some point.
Well, they were dismembered.
I mean, but this isn't a place that nobody's ever gone in.
Listen,
so
I don't know.
And I never heard of a prisoner being murdered and disembodied in the governor's bathroom's bath.
Well, not just. Well, I guess he was. I'm sorry. I don't know why I'm a little giggly today with this one, but I mean, they were, I guess, disembodied in a way, but they were also dismembered, supposedly.
Oh, okay.
Just like that. That's another way of saying murdering somebody. Yeah. They were disembodied.
They murdered him to death.
There you go.
But no, I seriously, I have not heard of any murders in the governor's bathroom.
Well, I mean, it was open for a long time, and it's possible we don't know. We'd have
I'm
to
sure
do
the
a little
governor's
more
bathroom
research.
was locked.
Unless it was the governor that did it, or like ordered it to be done
in his bathroom, in his bath.
Yes. It's possible.
Come on, Rebecca.
Well, okay. Listen, I don't know about that part, but I do know that there, in almost every article you read, it is mentioned that there is a room, somewhere there where people just feel horrible and they don't want to go in, and they're very afraid of it. And again, this was the only one that I could find that mentioned a specific room in relation to that. So what's your rating?
0.
Okay. So I'm going to give this one a 7.
A 7?
Yes. Again, 2. I don't know about the dismemberment, but I do know that there is supposedly a room there that is just really evil and no one wants to go.
Okay. But just because nobody wants to go into this room doesn't mean that there's anything paranormal going on there. It could be the way that the room is positioned. It could be the way that, like, maybe the bathroom is at the top of a flight of stairs or something, and they just get this feeling about it. Maybe it's darker than the rest of the... There's like a whole bunch of reasons why people would be like, I don't want to go in that one right there. You're going to give it a 7? Okay.
I am.
All right.
All right. Next one. There is a covered bridge that leads to the men's ward. Supposedly, icy hands reach out and grab unsuspecting visitors in a, quote, steely grip. It was a place where some took their own lives, and some think those souls are grasping for someone to hold or take down with them.
Do we have any video or anything of this?
Not that I found. I mean, there's a lot of videos of like doors closing on their own or people like in a window. None of them I found like connected to a story or necessarily the most compelling. They are compelling, but I didn't think they would be to your liking. So we'll post them for people to watch if they want. But no, and this, I mean, it's icy hands reaching out. You wouldn't necessarily have a video of that.
Well, I mean, okay, but the reason why I was asking if there's any videos is because I'm wondering how the bridge is constructed. Is it like, are the rails going across it? Are they made of metal? Metal, can be very cold.
Mm-hmm.
Is it wood? Is it, like, I don't have anything to go on this to be able to prove it's not true because there's not enough evidence here. There's really nothing here.
I don't know. I mean, I just supposedly people feel icy hands touch them when they're crossing the bridge.
But sometimes this could be explained by the atmosphere. And sometimes it could be a microclimate too. There's a lot of different reasons why, and there's, again, nothing to base this whole story on. I have nothing to go on in order to debate it. Okay. Does that make sense?
Well, I don't know. When I give you specific stories and you tell me it's just one person's story. So I'm giving you something that supposedly a lot of people have said. So that's all I can tell you.
Yeah, I know. But scientifically, I would want to look at what kind of materials were used in the construction of this bridge.
So what would matter? Like, so let's say it was metal.
Okay, metal. If you touch metal and it's cold out, that metal can feel really cold.
But like, I'm sure I would know, like, oh, I just touched the side of the bridge.
It depends what time of day this is happening at. This depends the lighting in the situation. Like, if you can't see something and you feel it, or maybe there is parts of the bridge, maybe it's wood, but there is like big metal bolts in it to hold it together, and they touch the bolt. So they think that they're touching wood, but they're actually touching the metal.
Now that would actually be something. I could see that where like you think it's wood, but there's metal in there. So when you touch it, I still feel like you would know that was a bolt. But you're right. It could. What if it's nighttime? I don't know.
Well, it could be a bolt that is perfectly level to the wood. I mean, I don't know because I don't know which bridge that they're actually referring to, and I have not seen any pictures or any video of this particular bridge. So I'm going to have to give this a 1 because I don't have anything else to go on. But I am hesitant to do that because I think there could be a rational reason for this.
All right. I'm going to give this a 6.
Okay.
'Cause I feel like you've given me some thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Last one here. Now there is a former superintendent that supposedly did kill himself at the asylum, and I did see a news article. So this did happen by ingesting prussic acid, which I don't know exactly what that is, but acid doesn't sound good. Don't drink acid. People reported they report like a foul taste or like a sour or just an acid taste in their mouth, and feeling nauseous when like standing in his quarters or passing by where this happened. So there you go.
This could be a carbon monoxide thing too.
I suppose, but you can't really taste that.
Yeah,
smell it.
sometimes if you're in carbon monoxide, you get a taste in your mouth. That's one of the symptoms of carbon monoxide poisoning.
Ooh, lesson learned.
Yeah, and also feeling nauseous too would be one of them.
But I would imagine they would, if that was true, they would have like fixed that.
I don't know. It really depends. It could. If someone's really sensitive to something like that, it could be on an individual basis and not on a group by group basis.
But what are the chances that would happen at this guy's room and just in that spot?
Okay, I am pretty sure that they don't. Okay, so I did not see anything about the superintendent killing himself at the asylum by ingesting this prussic acid.
Oh, there you go. I'm sure that's the right way.
But I am more positive they don't know exactly where this happened in the history of the place.
No, they do. There were like newspaper articles. I mean, that was a big deal. Like,
yeah.
But
I just think that it
was like he told them it was for his like sick like dog or something, and then he like drank it himself.
And the carbon monoxide poisoning could have happened at any place in there, and they could be feeling it at this point too.
I don't know. Again, that seems like
I wonder if
a lot of things aligning.
I wonder if they altered the way that they did the tour to go the opposite direction first. I wonder if the same thing would happen, or if they would feel it in a different spot, or if they didn't tell them that this is the spot where this person took this acid. I wonder if they would still feel it. So there's a lot of different things that scientifically we would need to do to prove this, right? We would need to have a control, which I would say the control is not telling people and seeing if they still feel it. And also, too, I don't know how many people have reported this foul taste in their mouth. I would want like a specimen. I would want like there to be at least like in the high hundreds to 1,000 people that have experienced this to really be able to scientifically say this could be this or that.
Well, and it may not be that everyone would feel it, right? It would just maybe be people that are more sensitive to
the carbon monoxide. Yeah.
No, to the spirit and what happened there, the energy. Now, I picked this particular story, but as I mentioned in my ghost story, there are other stories like this where it's like when people go to the electroshock therapy room, they feel tingling on the side of their head. When they go by this guy, they taste the stuff. There's a few stories like that. So I thought this one, though, because at least it had a story. We do know this person really did do this. There was a little bit more to it.
Well, so interesting story. When I was in high school, I didn't like high school.
What?
I didn't like going there. And I would try to come up with reasons. And I remember...
Reasons why you didn't like to go?
No, reasons why I would be able to stay home. And I remember on more than one occasion telling my mother that I felt nauseous. And the more that I told myself that I felt nauseous, the more that I actually did feel nauseous.
So you tricked your brain.
It's very possible to trick your brain in that way.
Very Ferris Bueller.
Yeah, and I mean, I would say that you could probably make yourself feel like you have a foul taste in your mouth if you heard something like, what is it?
Drink.
Prussic acid?
Sure. Prussic. I don't.
Prussic acid? I have no idea.
Prussic sounds.
But I mean, I'm sure that there's a psychological thing behind that too, where you can make yourself feel that way.
Interesting. All right. So what's your rating?
0 on this one.
Oh, okay. I'm going to give this one. I'm going to give it a 7. Again, there's just so many of these stories like this, so I just can't not.
So what is your overall rating then?
All right. So this place is overall. I'm gonna give it an 8. Like, I know that sounds insane because I've only gave one thing an 8 and others were 7s and 6s and whatever. But there are so many stories and just so much out there and so many people with these stories that just the hearing the whispers or feeling pushed or smelling or tasting things or feeling somebody touching you. There are countless stories. So, I know I'll talk more about that, I guess, in my argument, but it's an 8. How about for you?
Unlike you, I'm not going to let my feelings for the place dictate what my score is, which obviously you're doing with that a little bit. I don't think I
am.
I mean, okay, but you're not going on the evidence that was presented. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I am. It's just I know that there's the weight of the number of stories behind each of these.
Okay. Well, I am going to, so I gave a couple of them 1s and I gave a lot of 0s. So I'm going to go 0 on this one.
Okay.
If I could give a half a point, I'd probably give a half a point.
If I could do a half, I'd do 7.5.
So you would lower it from your 8.
I would do 7.5.
So it's not a strong 8.
It's not a strong 8, but you won't let me give 7.5. So I'm giving it an 8.
All right, Rebecca, that brings us to our closing arguments. This is our last chance to convince you to vote our way. We are each given 1 minute of uninterrupted time. We will time each other on our cell phones because, as we all know, Rebecca likes to cheat sometimes.
I do not cheat.
You have cheated in the past, and I've caught you doing it.
That was just in a fun episode.
It wasn't very fun for me when you were cheating. All right, Rebecca, are you ready?
Yes.
And go.
All right. The Aradale Asylum is so haunted. I've had a feeling it was going to be haunted, but I was overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with the number of stories and evidence, and trying to pick which to tell was difficult. So I apologize if you are somebody that knows about this asylum and you're like, but you didn't even talk about the this or the that. There's a whole thing with there were children that were there. Oh my gosh. Again, so I apologize. There's just so many stories I didn't get to, but even just from the ones that I did pick, people feeling touched, people hearing voices, feeling icy cold stuff and tasting and this place, it's haunted. It's Too many stories. All right.
You had like 5 seconds left.
I did. Like I said, I could just, there's so much I could go into that I just have to cut it short. All right. How about for you? Are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right, here we go.
So one thing I can tell you from doing Ghostly for almost 4 years now is any episode with asylum or penitentiary or any one of those other, sanitarium in the title, we get a lot more downloads on those episodes because people expect the creepy. People expect the madness that would be in these kind of places. The thing is that these are places to treat mentally ill people that deserved respect. And I think we're doing a disservice to them by saying that all of them are haunted now. I believe that there was some mistreatment, but I believe that was the science of the day. And that's all I'm going to say. It's just not haunted.
All right. About 7 seconds left there. Now, I will say, I'm just going to say, I did try my best to pick stories that were as much as possible about like staff.
Yeah.
And some of those things because yeah, I mean, I like I said, I mentioned children, like there's some ghost stories there, and I don't want to to go down a too sad of a path for us today. But yeah, there's a lot of sad things that happen at asylums, and it doesn't necessarily mean they're haunted.
Thank you. Thank you.
But in this case, it is.
All right. So I want to thank you so much for listening. Please share us with your friends and family, as that is our best way to get the word out on Ghostly. I mean, we take both sides. We take the believer side and the skeptic side. I don't think this podcast would be the same if it was just believer. It would be like a lot of other paranormal podcasts.
Yeah, or there's a lot of skeptic podcasts out there too, and it wouldn't be the same as that.
And the skeptic podcasts don't necessarily focus just on ghost stories. So
right, exactly.
You know, I really think that this is a good mix, and I think that it's important because, like, I don't know if you can tell, but by the way that we have the voting system, it's we are saying that not every place that people say is haunted is necessarily haunted, and that you can choose if you think this is one of them that is or isn't. I mean, like, we've had some that were, you know, pretty close to, like, the Lee family curse. I mean, who would have thought, you know, like, going into it, I was like, yeah, this is a thing I remember from my childhood. And then to find out, no, it's probably not anything.
Yeah, it's our goal that you get a chance to look at the evidence and make your own decision, and everybody gets a vote.
As you should with everything, right?
Absolutely.
So I want to remind you to hit that subscribe button if you didn't already hit subscribe when I told you in the beginning of the episode. So I would like to talk about our producers of the show. These are our VIP patrons. We have Carrie,
Becky,
Natalie,
Kim,
Ta,
Ernie,
Marisol,
Shayla,
Cindy,
Nicole,
Darnay,
Jessica,
Sarah,
Linda,
Alice,
Austin,
Aaron,
Hope,
and Candy. So we have some really exciting episodes coming up. We have one that we've been planning that I am just like, I am almost giddy about it. That's how excited I am about this episode. And I think you know which one I'm thinking of.
I think I do.
Yeah, well, we're going to do things a little different in that episode. I'm so excited.
It's going to be a lot of fun. This is like a summer of scare. I'm going to say we are not holding back. We're not waiting till October to do the scariest episodes.
In October, we're going to scare the poop out of you anyways.
We're going to definitely still do that, but we're not saving it till then. We're going to go full throttle until then.
So we will be talking about the Myrtles Plantation on the next episode that comes out on June 22nd.
All right.
You ready for that one?
I know. I am pretty sure that is going to be another sad and scary place.
I wonder if plantation means a lot more downloads too, like
that'll be interesting,
like Asylum does. So
yeah, we'll find out.
But until next time, stay ghostly.
Bye.